In the last video, we discussed about Ippo's journey of his goal of becoming a world champion. But before he defeated the Indonesian champion Wally and the Philippine champion Malcolm Ghetto, his first opponent was Jimmy Sisphar, the boxing champion from Thailand. And that's what we'll talk about today. Ippo was actually ashamed to his mother because ever since he was a kid, he was already working for their family business. That's why Ippo announced that his next match with Miyata would be his last match, because he wants to continue their family business. And he's doing this to see how far he has come in boxing. If you remember, Miyata is one of the people he looks up to and his eternal rival in boxing. These are his initial goals and inspirations. While Ippo was training, he saw Miyata. We learned from Miyata that their match wouldn't push through because of his hand injury. He also said that Ippo should not expect their match to happen, as it wasn't meant to be. Our hero's world seemed to collapse because of this. Quite a bromance, eh? But we can't blame Ippo because this has been his goal since he started boxing. The next day, Ippo and Kamogawa had mid-training. Our hero seemed disinterested in his training. Ippo suddenly stopped punching and asked who he should beat, since their rematch with Miyata won't happen. Ippo then confessed that even in shadow boxing, he didn't know who he was chasing to defeat. Kamogawa then said, "From the start, your first reason to box was to become strong. The world has no boundaries, so forget about your fight with Miyata." But our hero said that he couldn't forget about it. Ippo's coach got mad. He drove Ippo away and said he doesn't need a boxer like him. After a week of contemplating whether to quit boxing, our hero returned to the gym with a new goal. He held in his fists the dreams of his past opponents. When the two met, Kamogawa pretended to be angry and that he's not waiting for Ippo. Our hero apologized and said he wants to continue boxing. Kamogawa quickly said that within 1 month, Ippo would fight in the ring again. He'll be facing various OPBF champions, and their goal of defeating all champions from different countries begins here and now. This is their preparation before they engage in world ranking fights, and for a chance to face the pound-for-pound king, Ricardo Martinez. After that, Kamogawa said the phrase, "Aim for the world!" After several days of training, Ippo's next opponent, Jimmy Sisphar, the Thai featherweight champion, was introduced. When Ippo's gymmates returned, they said they heard the name Jimmy Sisphar before, but they couldn't remember where. We then learned that Jimmy Sisphar was Miyata's opponent when he was still training in Thailand. Our hero also said that Miyata had a hard time beating Jimmy. In the 4 rounds of their match, Miyata got beat up for 3 rounds and was knocked down twice. He only won after countering with a solid right straight. We witness here just how much of a fanboy Ippo is of Miyata. Yagi then said that after Jimmy's fights with Miyata, he fought 34 fights in 4 years. That's incredible! Guys, if you think about that, that means Jimmy fights 9 times a year. So Ippo's opponent is definitely well seasoned. Yagi said that of all the possible opponents, Jimmy is the most dangerous, and he is also called Scratch J or Scarred Jimmy, because he seems to just charge and charge in fights. That's why they often butt heads with his opponents. It seems like he fights just to hurt himself, and we also found out that nobody wants a rematch with him because all of his opponents were crushed so badly that they don't want to fight him again. The day of their weigh-in arrived and the two boxers met for the first time. When our hero greeted him, he saw why he was called Scratch J. Jimmy's face was clearly scarred. Kamogawa even said that if you look at Jimmy, you wouldn't think he's an athlete, but rather a soldier from a war. Kamogawa also told Ippo not to embarrass him and not to be afraid to have a stare down. Jimmy then sent a message to Miyata saying that he has perfected the Fist of God, and he will show this by knocking out Ippo in their match. That very same evening, we learned from Jimmy why he's doing this. He said that when he fought Miyata, he supposedly saw God in the light. So since then, he has been trying to see it again by fighting repeatedly. The next day, the day of their showdown finally arrived. Jimmy Sisphar was introduced with 45 fights, 38 wins, 38 knockouts, and 7 losses. Man, that is amazing. All of Jimmy's wins are all knockouts, so he's definitely gonna be strong, guys. But our protagonist won't back down. He has had 20 matches with 19 wins and 19 knockouts and 1 loss. Their fight started and Ippo charged forward quickly, but he was surprised when Jimmy kept his distance. When Ippo continued his assault, he was shocked by Jimmy, who charged quickly and released a right straight that sent Ippo flying. Jimmy charges like a bull headfirst with no defense, and he doesn't care if he headbutts his opponent. Jimmy's aggression continues and he throws powerful punches. When Ippo tried to fend him off with a cross arm block, it seemed to have no effects and our protagonist was sent flying again. Yagi said in the corner that they should prepare the blood-stopping gear. Because Jimmy's boxing style is just so reckless, it's certain that Ippo will suffer severe injuries. It's here we learn from Kamogawa that each of Jimmy's punches are like jolt punches, including his entire body weight. Ippo's coach shouted that he would lose if Jimmy can swing freely, so he needs to charge so that Jimmy can't swing freely. As Jimmy approached, our protagonist met him. When both of them were in each other's range, Jimmy fearlessly continued to throw powerful punches, but Ippo dodged and connected with 2 solid body blows. Because of this, the situation reversed, and it was Ippo who went on the offensive, and he connected with a solid left hook next. But it seems like Jimmy isn't affected by Ippo's punches. Jimmy tried to retaliate with the right straight, but Ippo countered it again with his own right straight. But wow, Jimmy still won't go down. He's tough. Ippo continued his aggressive approach and threw a variety of punches, but he was shocked by Jimmy when he got hit by a solid jolt. It was here Ippo first experienced what he calls the Fist of God. When Ippo tried to meet Jimmy's tornado jolt, because of the power of that punch, Ippo's entire body spun around, but the referee declared it a slip. Here we saw that Jimmy's punch did not connect, and what brought him down was his entire arm. Clothesline from hell! Guys, you tell me, are they still boxing here or has this match been turned into WWE? When Ippo stood up, you could see he was really beaten, and that's where the first round ended. In Jimmy's corner, he said that he hadn't broken Ippo's fighting spirit because when Jimmy attacked, Ippo moved forward to avoid the jolt punch, so he's certain that Ippo is the type of boxer who won't give up. The second round started and Ippo charged forward quickly. Ippo showered Jimmy with punches, but Jimmy wouldn't back down and continued throwing full force punches. He surprised Ippo by releasing a series of jolt punches. One connected solidly with Ippo's face and sent him flying. But our protagonist didn't fall down. When he regained his senses, he was shocked to see Jimmy charging at him again, and he released a sudden left straight. He followed this up with a variety of punches that connected cleanly with Jimmy's face. While this was happening, Ippo was anxious because he wasn't sure if what he was doing was working, because even though Ippo was connecting with many punches, he felt like he still wasn't leading in the fight. While Ippo was throwing punches, Jimmy met him with a right straight so Ippo couldn't dodge. But our protagonist wouldn't let himself be knocked down and forced himself to stay standing. Kamogawa immediately asked if he could continue, and Ippo quickly replied, I'm okay, I can do this." As Jimmy charged again, while Ippo was in the corner, our protagonists exchanged punches and both boxers were sent flying. But it was clear that Ippo took the brunt of the exchange. As Jimmy was about to follow up with a punch to end the match, our protagonist was saved by the bell, and that's where round 2 ended. This is the first time we've seen our protagonist losing in a contest of power. Jimmy Sisphar is incredible. In the corner, Kamogawa stated that his solution to the problem was correct. He just needs to fight back and also unleash full force punches. Round 3 has now started and the two boxers meet in the center of the ring. When Jimmy threw a punch, Ippo countered with all his might. In the middle of the ring, it seemed to have become a last man standing match. Ippo also forgot about defense and just let loose his punches with full force. The fists of the two boxers clashed many times, but no one wanted to back down, and the exchange of solid punches continued. When Jimmy let out a right hook, Ippo dodged it and quickly countered with a powerful body blow. And there ended the third round. In Ippo's corner, Kamigawa stated the key to winning. He said if the left hook isn't working, he should use a solid uppercut. Round 4 is now started and the two boxers meet again in the center of the ring. The exchange of powerful punches still kept coming, but both boxers weren't landing any clean hits. After a long exchange of punches, when Jimmy let out a right hook, Ippo tried Kamigawa's advice of an uppercut, but they both got hit and blood splattered due to the impact. Because of this, both of their faces were covered in blood. The referee thought of stopping the fight to have the wounds checked by the doctor, but Jimmy charged again and the intense battle continued. Jimmy showered our hero with punches. Because of the blood in Ippo's eyes, he couldn't dodge, and Jimmy connected another right hook. It's a crazy clean hit, but what's even crazier is that Ippo didn't go down with it. The exchange of punches continued, both persistently wanting to win. When Jimmy let out a left hook, it was countered again by a very strong uppercut that knocked and toppled Jimmy, and the referee quickly ended it. When Jimmy was finally out, Ippo thanked the spectators who supported him, and that's where our video ends. That was a really solid fight, wasn't it? Both didn't want to back down. It was just a battle of endurance and power of punches. Ippo finally found his match, didn't he? Spectacular! This is Onii-Chan Enghan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on the upcoming intense battles. See you next time, guys.